Okay, welcome to the world's simplest Eclipse model. Simplest. This actually isn't very simple, actually. Yeah, I've been messing around, and I've got here something that I'm using. This is a descriptive diagram of not really how the eclipse work. Well, kind of how the eclipse works in terms of balance between the sun, the moon, and the earth. Okay. It's yeah. Okay. It's not really what's going on, but the idea here is to explain some of the symbolism and some of the balance, and some of the numbers that are showing up. Okay. So I guess just follow along, or just turn off now. If you think this is good, this could be complete rubbish, but this is how I spend my spare time, looking at stuff like this. Anyway, what I've done here is I created a box, and I was just number doodling I wanted to see like what the ratio was between the point right here. What this point is right here that I've just circled is the width of the path of totality. And the number we're given is 115 miles for this last eclipse. It can vary between 100 and 123 is what Google said. But 115 is what I got for the 8/4 eclipse. Now, so that's the width, okay, and it's as a percentage, or as a part of the lit portion of the Earth, which is what this bar here represents, is the lit portion of the Earth there. Okay, so what we want to know is what is the what's the circumference of the Earth right here. It's half of it, the total is 24,902. Obviously that can vary, and we're doing half of that because we're just dealing with the lit side, so we're doing 12,451 miles. Okay, and then we're just dividing that by 115, and then that's going to give us 108.269 times that this eclipse path will fit in the lit circumference of the Earth. Okay, if I'm saying that all correctly. The 108 though is very interesting because it reminds me of a diagram that Zenith of the Alpha shows quite a bit, in relationship to the size of the Earth and the distances involved from the Earth to the Moon and to the Sun, and the size of the Sun and how all those things fit together. This 108 is key to that diagram that he has. In fact, he mentioned it in his last video, which again was kind of to do with the eclipse and to do with pi and some of the stuff I've been, it was on the Higgs character that croaked on the eclipse day. So anyway, make of that what you will, take away what you want from that. But this is interesting with the 108. And again, remember those two charts that I showed you, the king and the queen's cross, those two charts, or any of those cycles that are in those two charts. The one and the number 1 and the number 8 are the two things that repeat in those cycles. Okay, when you reduce them down to their bare bones, 1 and 8 are the two numbers that repeat in the cycle, a beginning and an end, maybe. Yeah, the physical and the metaphysical. The number 1, the physical, the number 8, the metaphysical again, maybe. Anyway, where am I going with this? So that's why I started doing this, because I was like, I wanted to see, I was just messing around. Anyway, I was like, you know what, I should just try and draw this out and see if any of these other, see if anything looks interesting, That's what I did. And I said to myself, well, the lit side of the Earth is 12,451. We'll make the sun the same. So on the one side of the box is the sun over here. Okay, so we've got the sun here, and the sun has to be balanced with the moon. So the moon has to be the same size as the sun. Has to be the same size. And everything's got to be equally spaced. So I put the moon in the middle here, okay? And it's basically from here to here is the moon. Yeah, it changes from grey, a kind of invisible part of the moon, to a solid part, black part of the moon, and then back to invisible. And it's the same size as the sun, you know, because the sun comes off to this corner here and down to here as well. So this is the same 12,451 miles as well. Okay, and it's the same size, and they're equally spaced apart. And then what we've got over here, we've got the Earth again, which is one side is 12. This green side is 12,451, and the dark side that's running all the way along this back side is 12,451 as well. Okay, so that's what we've got going on. We've actually really got what appears to be 3 columns. Okay, but this thing is like conjoined twins here, and these two things are separated out a little bit. Yeah, and they come together at certain points and certain times, as we just saw. So we've got 2 sets of twins, a double 11s, okay, just like we have at the Hoover Dam, but we also have 3 columns, if you like, 3 individual things going on here as well, like the Holy Trinity. So this is quite nice, okay. I mean, you could just think of the Earth as a coin with heads and tails, and then the other 2 is just, you know, one coin that's split apart, okay, with the tails on one side and the heads on the other. Okay. Anyway, however you want to think about that, however you want to think about it is, well, let's look at what I've done here anyway. Is what I did was the sun is obviously emitting. I don't know. Anyway, it's giving off sunlight in all different directions, and of course this very corner tippy point here can still illuminate all of this. And as you see, I've got the moon here, this solid disk part, which is forming the eclipse. So if you're stood here and you're looking up, obviously perspective is going to make this solid portion of the moon look the same size as the sun. Okay, and it's going to block out and make this shadow here, this grey shadow here. Okay, and so you're going to have that focal point there, which is the path of totality, right? Anyway, so that's our eclipse model, right? So you can see how the eclipse works. But now I hear people shouting at the screen saying, well, if the moon is this width here, why have you just drawn it like right there? Well, because that's the only part that's blocking out to get back to this point, isn't it? What's fascinating about if we remember what the moon does in the sky, yeah, is not solid all the time, is it? It goes from, it'd be better if I was doing it in grey. It goes from solid, you know, what you can see, to nothing. Okay, so grey and white goes to nothing. You can't even see it. You can't even see the ring there anymore. You know, it's just, that's it. Okay, so what's interesting about this idea here with the same size is that this is going from solid to nothing here. Yeah, half of this, yeah, these 2 grey lines is the one half of the moon, which is invisible, and then the other half of the moon, which is represented with this black line here, is the portion that is visible. So this thing is transitioning between visible and invisible. Okay, and so half of it must be visible and the other half invisible. And so when you just lay it out like this, I know it doesn't really make proper sense, but it's just a way of explaining what's going on. we now have this solid part of the moon blocking out the sun here and forming the eclipse. Okay, I don't know if that makes any sense to people, but what I found fascinating about this whole thing, right, is when I did this to scale, yeah. So I did all this to scale, and this actually, the way it's drawn in here now is fairly to scale. I kind of put a ruler on the screen and sort of drew it kind of to scale, right? But when you draw this thing to scale, what you'll find is that this angle here, at least this is what I found, came out to be 53 degrees. Now, what is fascinating about that is that's the same angle on the dollar bill on the Eye of Providence at the top of the pyramid. Yeah? So if I was to just do this now, you'll see where I'm going with this. Rotate 90. Ah, bloody hell. Hang on. Rotate 108. Let's get back the right way. Now you can see the Eye of Providence with the 50, the eclipse portion of this, the Eye of Providence. I haven't actually, I don't think the, well, actually, I'm not sure actually, without like going back to that old decode that I did on the dollar bill and actually figuring out what lengths we had everywhere and all the rest of it. But it surely is pretty darn close. In fact, on the Eye of Providence, you have a gap. Hang on a minute. You kind of have a gap. There's a gap here between all of the brickwork that's down in this bottom part, and then there's a gap here, and then there's the eye up here. So this is I mean, what else to say about it other than as an explanation of the eclipse? It's absolutely fascinating. I think that's the end of the video, to be quite honest. Obviously, the 3rd of May is coming up. That might be an interesting date, the 3rd of May. I want to say something with Madonna's brother may have died on the 3rd of May, maybe. Can't remember off the top of my head. But, yeah. I don't know anymore. This kind of stuff is just crazy, really. But you can see how, this explains, if the moon's jumping between solid and, or visible and invisible, okay, you can see how, this allows the moon to stay balanced with the sun in terms of size here, and then what we're observing, because this thing's halfway, is an object that is the same size. This is the same size as this because of perspective, yeah. But in reality as well, or what we can't see in reality, is that it's the same size because it's jumping from physical to metaphysical as well. And then the Earth as well, with the light and the dark side, like twins again. So the light side of Earth, the dark side of Earth, the dark and the light here as well. Okay, everything reflecting each other, everything the same sort of size. So I don't know if the Earth really is 24,902 miles around. Maybe the Sun is 12,451 miles. And then maybe the moon is 12,451 miles, and maybe the portion of the moon that we can see is 12,451 miles divided by 2, which is 6,225-ish, 0.5 miles across. But it's not really. It's really 12,451 miles. Okay, if that makes any sense. which it probably doesn't, but I just thought it was interesting, worth doing a video on anyway. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. I'll catch you on another one soon. Cheers, bye. Okay, just tacking this on the end of the video, just so you could actually see the dollar bill, the Eye of Providence, and the the pyramid. Just comparing it, and I just kind of I used a bit of artistic license here with this one, and just sort of took that model and just removed a portion here and added a bit of color in, so you could kind of see, side by side. It's not the same exactly. Because if you look at the dollar bill, obviously there's the midpoint of the pyramid would be somewhere here, and obviously it's got this shaded side in it, and it's, there's some differences going on there. But the main thing to take away from it is this angle at the top here, this 53 degrees, is the same as what the angle I came up with here in the dollar bill, 53 degrees, whenever I calculated it out before. So this is, it's kind of fascinating, and I just wanted to show you the sort of side by side, so you could, well, just so you could see. All right, thanks, bye.